So I wanted to take a few minutes to go over the strong interest inventory with you. A little bit about this assessment. It looks at 6 interest areas. I'll go over in brief detail each of the 6 interest areas really quickly with you. But let me also talk a little bit about the assessment. This assessment was 300 questions. It compared your responses to how people in general in these occupations and are satisfied in these occupations answered questions. So it looks at your results, your questions, the way you answered, and compares it to people that are satisfied in these occupations answered questions, and that's how it kind of matches you up. Also, this assessment, this example, but basically I'll give you the brief version of it. The assessment says it starts general and gets very specific. The example the assessment gives is it looks at your favorite city, then narrows it down to your favorite street, and then your favorite room. Basically, when I go over your results, I'll kind of explain that, but it just gives you general information and then gets very specific to like occupations related to your gender and then like your personality when it comes to work. I always remind students this assessment measures your interest, not your abilities. So it measures what you like, not what you're good at. So it's not telling you you'd be a good doctor or a lawyer. It's saying you might like or enjoy being a doctor or a lawyer. There's many other things to consider just in terms of interest. But for this assessment, we're just looking at interest and what you might like. It doesn't tell you what you should be. So when you get your results, it's not saying you should be a florist or you should be a police officer. It's saying you might like it. This assessment's intended to expand our options, give you more to consider. Also, interests are only one factor. So it's only one thing we want to consider when making our decision. Not all jobs are listed in the strong, so we always want to look at things on a big scale in terms of job family. For example, one of my students was upset firefighter wasn't listed, and that's what he wanted to be. But he had things like, police officer and forest ranger and things like that. And always remember, no result is better than the other. Sometimes people are like, oh, I wish I got this. Nothing is necessarily better than the other. This assessment is based off John Holland and his theory of vocational psychology. So he basically said there's 6 personality types and 6 corresponding work environments. Most people are a combination of more than one, typically 3. This assessment specifically has 6 interest areas. You can see this a little bit more closely in a minute, but the first kind of of the 6 areas, the first one is realistic. Those are the doers. They like hands-on occupations. Investigative are the thinkers. Artistic is the creators. Social is the helpers. Enterprising is the persuaders. Conventional are the organizers, but I'll show you a little bit more in detail. So when we see realistic occupation, these are people that are known as the doers. They like hands-on work. They like to work with their hands. They like to be physical when it comes to their job. This is one of my highest. I am not physical with my job. It's more of a hobby, but this was one of my highest results. The second of the 6 is investigative. These are the thinkers. They like to do research. They like to solve problems. They like to look at theory. Very research-oriented and scientific environments. Main career motivators, analyzing information. The third one is artistic. These are people are known as the creators. They like being creative, conceptualizing, using their individuality. They might like to write or perform or design, work independently. Typically like self-expressive environments where they can be flexible and creative. Their main goal when it comes to work is expressing their creativity. This is my second highest one. I am not an artist for a living. However, I use my creativity when it comes to the classroom. The next one is social. These are known as the helpers. So they like to help, encourage, teach, counsel, guide other people. And these tend to be supportive, relationship-based work environments, but the main motivator for them is helping other people. The next one is enterprising. Enterprising people are known as the persuaders. They like to debate, sell, manage others, take risks, talk about business, tend to be very fast-paced, competitive, profit-oriented environments. Sometimes people see this and they're like, well, I don't like to sell. This could be things like being a leader or taking some sort of leadership role or feeling like you can manage other people. And the next one is conventional. These are known as the organizers. These people like to write reports, keep track of data, numbers, make charts, graphs, tend to see a lot of like accounting and like computer science occupations in here. Their main thing is organizing and keeping track of information. And then let me show you what the results will look like. So this is what your results will look like. I'd prefer actually while you're watching this video to have your results with you. It is a long assessment, many pages, and people tend to get confused. I will go over it in detail kind of with you. The first page is just your name. Second page gives you more of a description of the assessment. Page 3 is where you're going to see your results. You'll see under the theme descriptions, it gives you the top 6 themes. And it actually gives you them in order of how you scored the highest. So this person, it gives them in order what they scored the highest. And I always show students this. It shows you interest in this area, work activities, skills, and values. When you're writing a resume, this is a great place to look at your skills section, or if you're preparing for an interview, this is a great thing to review. In the middle of the page toward the bottom here is your top highest theme. So this student has social, enterprising, and conventional were his top 3 in order. And then down here at the bottom of the page, it shows you basically a graph, a breakdown of how high this person scored in each area. So you'll see this person actually had quite a bit that was high. When you flip to page 4 gives you top interest areas. So this person's top interest areas are taxes and accounting, management, marketing, healthcare, and sales. To the right, it gives occupations or areas of least interest. Military, religion, spirituality, and computer hardware electronics. This page, we do see hobbies show up. So, you'll see things in here that might not be work related, but are maybe more hobby related. That's okay. This happens with this assessment. So it's up to you to kind of decide maybe what you'd rather do when it comes to work versus hobbies, but you will see hobbies show up. For example, this person has performing arts. Maybe that's a hobby for him, maybe not necessarily something he plans to, do when it comes to work. Page 5 then gives you a breakdown of your top 10 occupations. So this person, keep in mind, this is a snapshot. I was upset when I saw my results because my occupation wasn't listed here. But just kind of keep in mind, this is a little snapshot. So this is telling you your top occupations. And then over here to the right, it says occupations of dissimilar interest. So this person has things like physical therapist, finance advisor, accountant. Then over here to the right, it says dissimilar interests, artist, a mathematician, a physicist, chemist, biologist. And then if we scroll down to page 6, the next 3 pages are the ones that have, I think, the most information that will take you the longest to go through. Over here to the right, you'll see this is now getting more specific and give you occupations compared to your gender. So how your gender see occupations. And men and women actually see occupations differently. So that's why they look at gender. So anything with a score of 40 or above means you share interests with your gender in that occupation and probably would enjoy that work. This is important because I want you on the next few pages to look at any occupation that you got a score of 40 or above. So it's going to have 3 pages. So look at each category, anything with a score of 40 or above. What I tell students when they're in my office is I have them like highlight which occupations look interesting above 40. If you don't have a lot above 40, you can look at mid-range results. Anything above 30, it's up to you. But definitely look through anything that you got a score of 40 or above. But if you don't have a lot above 40, you can look at 30 or above on the next 3 pages. That will take you some time to go through. When you write your reflection, I'll have you share some of what you highlighted or what stood out to you with me. Page 9 is actually looks more at your personalities. So it gives you a breakdown of 5 areas, and where the little diamond is on the graph is showing you how high you scored. So in work style, if your diamond was to the left, it would be prefer working alone, data, ideas, things. More toward the right, it would be prefer working with people. You'll see a little bit of a connection with your Myers-Briggs here, which is the assessment we did last time. So you'll see this person says you likely prefer working with people a little bit this way, seem to prefer learning through lectures and books, probably prefer to lead by taking charge, may like some risk taking a little bit, probably enjoy participating in teams. Again, where your diamond is on the chart would show which way you're leaning. The next page is very interesting. It's basically a snapshot of your results up to this point. However, the most important point for me is I was looking at this bottom line here. This is telling me a breakdown of how you answered questions. So if we look down here, the one thing I look at is how much you strongly liked or liked things, how much you strongly disliked or disliked things, or how often you chose indifferent. When you come in for your appointment, we will look at this in more detail, but sometimes students have a really high number here. So if you chose indifferent, 50% of the time or 60% of the time, that means, 60% of the time you never made a decision, which can throw off our results. The next page, page 11, breaks it down by major. Sometimes people get overwhelmed looking at all those occupations. So this is a great section to look at. So it looks at your top 3 areas and common majors associated with those areas. This is another area I'd like you to go through and highlight what majors kind of stand out to you. Page 12 gives you your top interest areas, and if you wanted to pursue those areas, what you can do now to get ahead. For example, let's say healthcare was something you wanted to get ahead with. It's telling you things on campus you should get involved in, internships or job settings you should look for, and typical college courses associated that would prepare you for that field. The next page, we're almost done. Page 13 looks at your highest occupations and what type of education it would take. So this person had physical therapist as their top one. If that was something they wanted to pursue, it tells you what type of education, common courses, and what type of related careers are related with being a physical therapist. And the next page, basically the last page, page 14, gives you a little bit more of a breakdown of your personality, style scales, they call them. So, for example, it looks at, work style. It says your score suggests a preference for working closely or frequently with people rather than working alone. You may prefer academic activities that focus on interpersonal interaction. Again, so it just gives you a little bit more information here. Again, this is a long assessment and might take you some time to go through, but after you're done going through this assessment and highlighting really carefully, I'm going to have you write your reflection and submit it this week.